Hello, and welcome to Week 8 of Robotics for All's Advanced Python curriculum. As we mentioned before, this week you're going to be creating a program that allows you to play tic-tac-toe in the console window against a friend or against a computer. Let's begin by briefly reviewing how the game tic-tac-toe works in case you haven't played it before. Basically, you have a 3x3 board like this, and each player takes turns drawing either X's or O's in a square. And the goal is to get 3 of your symbol in a row to win. So, let's see. This is probably going to be a tie. To help you bring this classic game into a program, we have prepared a document which will guide you through the process of creating the game. The document won't tell you exactly what to code, but it will give you a direction in the process. Your teachers will be available to help with the project during class time as usual, and don't forget to ask any questions if they come up. For the remainder of the video, I will be reviewing the overall structure of the tic-tac-toe game and sharing possible ways to implement the solution as the instructions document does show. So a lot of this information that I say here will also appear in the project instructions document, but you should follow along here as I go as well. So the first challenge in tackling any programming problem like this is to figure out how we can represent a somewhat abstract idea like a game of tic-tac-toe in a program. So for this game, there's a few aspects we want to consider. Firstly, it's the game board, right? This 3x3 grid. The game board is really just a collection of 9 values, right? Either X's or O's, or if it's a new game, they're blanks, arranged in a 3x3 grid. That's all really the game board is. We know we can add symbols into particular spaces on the board if that space is blank, and we can check to see if we have a winner or not, or a tie, by seeing if we have 3 in a row or if the whole board is full. We know that there must be some kind of collection of data associated with the board because we have these associated values, like there's an X in this position and there's an O in this position. So they're collected, connected somehow. We also know what sort of operations we can do on the board. We can check it as a winner, we can put a token down. So this sounds like a really good place for us to use a class to represent the board, because we have information and methods associated with a single object. So for this program, you're going to want to create a class. Now, you can call the class many things, but a convenient thing to call it is probably just tic-tac-toe class, for example. Okay. Now, of course, we know we're going to need to have a lot of different methods inside here. Of course, we want to have a constructor in it as well, because we're going to have to create objects of this class and maybe pass in information there. We probably want some way to print out the class, perhaps to print out the game board itself. So we're going to need to have some sort of string method inside here. And we can come up with a few other ideas of what we're going to need. For example, well, we need to know whether or not there's going to be a winner, so we're going to need to write a method for that. And of course, we're going to need to, I forgot to define it. We're going to need to, know if there's a winner or not, and maybe we're going to need to have a function to, maybe make a move, for example. We can have a make move method like that. So just a few ideas of what we might need to start with there. You'll see in the project instructions document that it lists out the exact methods you want to have inside your code. Now, a list will be a pretty good way to store the collection of symbols that is on the board. But how can we represent this grid using a list, right? Because this is like a 3x3 grid. A list is just a linear collection. So how do we do that? Well, there's 2 different ways we can think about it. We could create a regular one-dimensional list. And just remember that after every 3 elements, it's really a new row, but we're just going to store it as a regular linear list. Or we can use a 2-dimensional list and literally represent it as a column and an index, like in this image right here. So in this case, each position on the 3x3 board is given a row and column index. In this case, we've just associated a number with each position, counting up till 9. Now, as you'll see in the project instructions document, the method we recommend you to go with is actually this below method, because what we can do is we can actually just input our move using the number pad on our keyboard, if you have a number pad. And that'll be a really effective way of translating where you want to put the token down on the board to something physical which you can type in, instead of having to type in like a row and column, which makes a little bit more sense for a regular user. We can represent the X's and O's, those tokens that the players put down, using just strings in Python. So an X could represent X and an O could represent O. And to represent an empty space, we could probably use an underscore, which is a good way to kind of show that there's a space that needs to be filled. And those are what we're going to ask you to use to represent things onto the board. Now, I can't give you all the answers in this video, but I hope this is a good starting off point for your project. Now go ahead and navigate to this project instructions document, which was given to you by your teacher, and keep moving forward in this first section called Program Organization. If you use your class time well and work on it for homework, by the end of the week, you're going to have a working tic-tac-toe game that you can play with a friend or against a computer. Thank you for watching and happy programming!